Hey all, second video of trying to figure the van out. The first guess, which was a fuel pressure regulator, doesn't seem to have solved the problem, so let's get going. I went and got a fuel pump. I also got the strainer and a fuel filter. So we're just, there's gonna be nothing on that end of the vehicle that we can use as an excuse. So I'm gonna drop the tank, put this in, install the new fuel filter, and hopefully that'll solve the problem. I'm really hoping that it's a low pressure due to the fuel pump, because if it's not that, I'm really running out of guesses that aren't just throw random parts at it. Alright, so the fuel tank's at the back of the van under here. There's two straps that hold it on. Once you've got those down, you can let the tank down. Most of the time getting a tank down is an absolute bastard because you're trying to balance it on a floor jack. But I've decided I'm going to be more clever than that. And I'm going to balance it on a quick jack, which should work better because it's wider. Got a bigger contact patch, and it can't really fall to either side. So I'm just going to snug this sucker up. There we go. And then I should be able to undo the two tank straps, drop them down, and then lower the entire tank. Alright, so the tank's not all the way down, but it's as far down as I can get at the moment. So I had to remove or disconnect the fuel filler here, which I forgot about. So it was part of the delay. I can't get it off the tank portion, so I had to pull it off that side, which was a pain because there's more of it on that side than on the tank. There's the vent for the filler here that needs to get disconnected. There's the tank vent here that I'm pretty sure goes to the charcoal canister that needs to get disconnected, and then there's the power wires for the pump and the two fuel and return lines that need to get disconnected. Right now I think the pump wiring is the thing holding it in place. But so what I'm going to do is get this down as far as I can go. Once I get this wiring disconnected, because that is definitely under tension, then we're going to disconnect all of those. That'll allow me to slide the tank hole out, which will allow me to then pull the tank pump assembly out, which will then allow me to do the next step. These hoses back here look like they're in good shape, so I'm not too worried about those. So yeah, let's get to going. All right, got the fuel tank out. No big problems. I thought this was a connector. Turns out it wasn't. Fortunately, I poked at it a little bit and it didn't move, so I went and checked, and turns out now the connector's way the hell down there. So I went and unhooked that. So what I'm going to do now is clean off the top of this tank. Let's get rid of all this loose rust and crap and dirt so none of it falls in the tank when I open it. And then there's a lock ring here that needs to get rotated that will then allow me to lift the pump assembly out. I'm hoping I have a brass punch small enough, because I prefer by a long shot to do these with a brass punch, but we'll see. All right, and there's everything cleaned up. Took a little longer than I expected. I would have filmed if I'd realized. There was a bunch of sand and crap caught down in here, and in fact I can still see one piece, and like little pebbles and stuff. So what I ended up doing was using a pick to loosen them, like that, and then I used the compressed air. I used the compressed air to blow all the shit out. I also gave the whole top of this a scuff down with a brass brush. I prefer to use the steel one, but I'm not going to use a steel brush in a gas tank. I'm not creating that many sparks. I'm not an idiot. So what I'm going to do now is try and pop this ring out, try and get the assembly out, and as soon as this is out, I'm going to spray the whole top of it with the phosphoric acid and let that kind of do its thing while I'm working on the pump assembly. and then go forward from, and then I'll show you once I get this out, because there's just no good place to put the camera right here. Alrighty. Oh, there it is, pumps out. So, it's not doing it anymore, but the pump, when I dumped it, was shedding these little bits of black something. I think it might be just this thing coming apart, but either way, it's gross and nasty. But the inside of the tank looks nice and clean. A new bit of hose that's provided. So, here's my new pump. And there's the whole thing assembled. New rubber hose, new clamps. I was lucky and it came with a bunch of adapters for the wiring, but the original thing just clipped right on, so I didn't have to worry about that. Put the new little rubber thing at the bottom. New sock at the bottom. Mine had this thing, which was clearly intended to dampen the noise of it somewhat. The only problem is it's in a really poor shape. Like, it's rough and a little bit crumbly, and I'm afraid if I put this back in, even if I zip, because I could zip tie this around the pump, but I'm afraid if I do that, this will start disintegrating and just cause me problems down the line. This may even be where those little bits of black that were in the pump came from. So I'm just going to skip that, deal with it if the pump's a little noisier. So this just needs to get, I'm going to need two hands because I got to wipe that gasket to get any crud off of it, and then fit the pump down in, and then turn the lock ring again, and then this will be all reassembled. The whole top's been sprayed with brake clean to get off the PB blaster I used to get it loose. So as soon as that dries, which should be pretty quickly, I'm going to spray the whole thing with the phosphoric acid to deal with this rust a little bit, and then I'm going to go in and grab lunch or dinner. Alright, here we are the next day. The rust converter didn't do as much as I'd hoped, probably because I didn't get enough of the rust off, because I was using a brass brush, not a steel one. If this was any other thing, I would have gone through it and ground it down till it was basically no rust, and then sprayed it with rust converter. But I didn't have that option here because gas tank. So what I'm going to do now is clean this up, get all this leftover dust residue from the rust converter, and then give this whole thing a spray with, if I have rust converting paint, I'm going to use that. If I don't, I'm going to use, I have a cold galvanizing spray. One or the other do to protect it. I mean, it's lasted 20 something years as it is, so I suspect it won't need major protection to keep it going longer. I just need to, you know, arrest what's going on here. Alright, well, it's coated in self-etching primer because I didn't have the galvanizing paint I thought I did. And I can't just go pick up some more galvanizing paint because I just tested positive. I'm not surprised my partner tested positive yesterday. Don't worry, when I went and got parts yesterday, I was wearing an N95 mask out of an abundance of caution because I suspected I might have it. But yeah, COVID has hit our household, so hopefully my energy lasts long enough that I can get this tank back in. Basically at this point I need to wait for that to dry for like an hour or two, spray it with Rust-Oleum top coat, and then wrestle the thing in, hook it all up and lift it all up into place, and hopefully the van will be running again. Technically I could just sort of say fuck it and deal with it after COVID because we have 2 other cars, but I'd rather not leave the job half done if I don't know how long it is till I'm going to get back to it. So guess what else I'm out of? Black spray paint. So yeah, this is going to dry for, I don't know, a few hours. I got it out in the sun, so hopefully it'll bake it good and hard. And then I'm going to try and lever that back up in there, and I hope I still have enough energy to do it. Alright, tank is dry enough. So it's going in. All right, tank's in. I had to leave to take my partner to an appointment for the COVID thing and forgot to start filming again. This is connected. That was where I basically was stopping. I couldn't get this to line up and go on, but I've got it on now. The tank straps are on. So now intake and outtake outlines are vent, filler, hose itself are all in. So this part is now done. Now I've got to go fire up the van and check the fuel pressure to see if this was the solution I needed. All right, see what happens. I got nothing now. Oh right, I need to connect the fuel pump. Never mind, I never plugged it back in. All right, attempt number 2 with the fuel pump actually plugged in. So let's see what happens. No fuel pressure, that's interesting. Oh, there we go. Oh, hell yeah. All right, I just took the van for a drive and it's now driving perfect. It's working perfectly fine. No problems, no issues. Idles smoother than it has for a while, whatnot. So, what do I think happened? Because the weird thing is, at the beginning of this, I was so sure I had too much gas, only to find out I had a bad fuel pump. The thing is, when I drove it, the exhaust seems to smell less of gas. So my working theory is that the fuel pressure regulator went bad in such a way that it was demanding a lot more fuel, and the old pump was having suddenly, with that added demand, was having trouble keeping up and burned itself out. So I'm not sure, but that's my theory, because it like I said, it idles nicer now, it drives better, I have more power, but also the exhaust doesn't smell like unburnt hydrocarbons as bad as it did. Like it stank and it stung your eyes. I couldn't drive around. I had to be careful what windows I drove around with open, because the like unburnt fuel coming out of the exhaust would sting your eyes. So that's my running theory, is that the fuel pressure regulator went bad, and the strain that put on the 20-something-year-old fuel system by not working properly basically took the pump out with it. So yeah, I'm definitely coming down with COVID symptoms. So I will talk to you all later. Don't know exactly when that'll be. Hopefully soon. Hopefully I'll keep enough energy to do little stuff. But if you don't see videos for a bit, that's basically what it is. Talk to you all later. Bye.